Make Australia British again, David here.
Now, I'm an Australian and I do not feel sorry for colonising the Aboriginals at all, because I think that this country was founded by the British. The 26th of January 1788 is the day when the New South Wales colony was formally established, after they initially settled on the 14th of January at Botany Bay and then changed it to Sydney Cove. Now, for me, breaking away from the British isn't an important thing for this country to do, because this country was built by the British and for the British. It has been a core of our identity since the British came here, and even after our legal institutions were made. Now, unfortunately, people seem to look at the Australian flag these days and ignore the Union Jack, or they support the Australian flag and think of it purely as Australia. I think people who are against Australia Day do have something good to say about it, which is that when we look at the Australian flag, we think of they think of England, whereas we think of Australia. To me, I don't see a problem with thinking of England when we look at the Australian flag at all, or Britain, whatever. It's more accurate and more technical to call it the Union Jack and the British flag. Now, I've seen a lot of people try to use our geography as means of establishing a new national identity, but I don't want an Australian national identity at the cost of not being proud of where we come from. The British are our history, and I think that's very important. And to me, I consider the rawest form of Australian culture to be the culture that has been made here by the British and their descendants, independently of Aboriginal, American, or multicultural influences. And people don't seem to know or care about such things anymore. The British culture that we do have isn't very conscious among the minds of Australians. The flag is a perfect example that I mentioned before. To me, I'm not really proud of the Aboriginals, because the Aboriginals have been here for 60,000 years and they hadn't done anything except looked at a pile of dirt for that long. Any civilization can do that. And every civilization has done that. So what makes them special? They're not. The people that made this country are special. The British are what made this country. And instead of paying respect to the Aboriginals for doing nothing, I think that we should be paying respect to the British and our descendants here, our ancestors, because, as I said, they're the people that made this country, all its institutions and churches, architecture, and so on. I wonder what it takes for Australia to see this, that all of our history and traditions are all English. And even for the ones that are uniquely Australian and that don't exist in Britain, they predate the Federation of Australia. For instance, Australia's green and gold colours that were chosen to distinguish ourselves from the red, white and blue of the British team in cricket in the 1890s. I just think that Australian nationalism isn't very organic. And in large part, it comes from actually copying the Americans, that we have to translate Australian history into American history. For instance, I think I was reading this excerpt from The Foundations of Culture in Australia, which was published in 1940, in the 1930s, which said that us rejecting English convict ships is somehow the same thing as our War of Independence, as the United States War of Independence. And even Federation, we even chose to have the American names for our Houses of Parliament. So I don't think that that's relevant. I don't think that I factorize these into Australian nationalism whatsoever. And every single time where we've had an opportunity to actually build a new culture, we just end up copying the Americans anyway, and everyone just kind of accepts that. You know, using the dollar. Well, sure, it's the Australian dollar, but, you know, there's a reason why we chose to call our new money the same name as the country's economy with the highest GDP. And yeah, there's a reason why 31 out of the 66 ex-British colonies use dollars, and it's not because the origin of the word dollar is German. No, it's because the United States is so dominant. Anyway, it's just my thoughts on Australia Day. We should be proud of our national day. And yeah, I can't think of any other day that I'd want it on. People are talking about May 8th. What a stupid idea. Can't be bothered with those sorts of people. There's no use arguing with them. They'll never see eye to eye with us. They won't consider themselves British, and that's a shame, even though many Australians are British. But whatever. What can we do? Anyway, God bless. I hope you all have a great day on Australia Day, and I'll be at the march for Australia in Melbourne on the 26th. If you enjoyed the video, please go to my patreon.com/make_Australia_British_again and follow my social medias if you want to support me.